Hello and welcome to the show that gives you an insight into the most important issues of the day. You're watching The Big Picture. Home Secretary R.K. Singh is in Islamabad with a 12-member delegation as part of the second round of secretary-level talks between the two countries after the events of 26/11. The rocky relationship between the two neighbors that hit an all-time low after the Mumbai attacks has eased into to some extent owing to some positive steps taken at both ends. The visit by Pakistan President Asif Ali Zardari on April the 8th this year truly set the ball rolling for further talks. As echoed by Prime Minister Manmohan Singh during the Zardari visit, the Indian delegation is expected to keep the issue of action against the 26/11 perpetrators high on the agenda. Apart from that, more relaxed visa regime which has been propounded by officials on both sides is also expected to be inked. Indian officials are also expected to take up the issue of fugitives like Dawood Ibrahim, humanitarian issues like the plight of fishermen and Indian citizens in Pakistani jails, and the problem of fake currency notes smuggled through Pakistan. Tonight on The Big Picture, we discuss the India-Pakistan relationship in the backdrop of these talks, and we take a look at the issues expected to come up for discussion. We also try and get an insight on the chances of these meetings turning out to be concrete and constructive. In the studio tonight, Anand Sahay, consulting editor of the Asian Age, is joining me. Also, Anuradha Chenoy from JNU will be joining us. Rajeev, Sikri, former diplomat, welcome to the show again, sir. In a moment, we'll be joined by Shamim, Meraj, editor of the Kashmir Monitor from Srinagar on the phone line. I'm Athar Khan, and I welcome you all to the show. I'd like to start the show with Mr. Sikri, if I could. Mr. Sikri, these talks come after the Zardari visit in April. That visit had this positive bonhomie that we saw, very friendly atmosphere. Do you think these secretary-level talks, do you see that bonhomie, that positive interaction translating into some concrete steps taken so that the workable issues, like they call it, the doable issues, like the visa regime, for example, do you see that happening at all? Some concrete steps being taken, something being inked during these talks?
Well, I think that is the big question in our minds, that does the bonhomie during the Zardari visit, does the positive attitude that Mr. Gilani has been showing, do the remarks of General Kayani that we must have peaceful coexistence with India, do all these remarks mean something? Because it is during these talks that the core issues for us like terrorism and drugs and fake currency, all these will be taken up. Now, from our side, I think we have signaled our seriousness of intent by including the Director IB and the head of the National Investigation Agency in our delegation.
Right, Mr. Saxena.
Yeah, Sinha, I think.
Sinha, yeah, I beg your pardon.
So we have signaled that, look, we are sending a fully empowered team to discuss and take decisions on the spot. The question is whether the Pakistanis are ready for that. You mentioned about the visa regime. I just heard some reports that perhaps the Pakistani cabinet has not cleared the visa.
There are conflicted reports in the Pakistani media, yes.
But in any case, it's not a core issue. It's a bit of a fluff that it looks good, and I see nothing wrong with that. Only caveat I'd like to make is that if we are going to have such a regime with Pakistan, surely we should have as good, if not a better regime with Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and some of the other neighbors.
Right. Fair point, sir. Fair point. Let me get Professor Chenoy in on this. Terrorism is an issue that is surely going to be taken up during these talks. Now, given the fact that the jihadis or non-state actors, if I could call them that, really aren't in the control of the state in Pakistan, do you see us making any headway there, especially on the issue of terrorism being perpetrated from Pakistani soil against India?
Look, I think this is a good time for India to keep a hard position on that, because the international community and all, international actors are also America and Russia. They're all on to Pakistan on this issue. Hafiz Saeed has been declared almost an international, terrorist in all countries. They're all putting pressure. So India cannot let go, and it's a core issue for India. But I think how Indian policy is evolving vis-a-vis Pakistan, it's a much more sophisticated policy, because it is, keeping the pressure on to these core issues like terrorism and the fact of a Pakistani army which handles security and foreign policy issues, and maybe there may not be any headway in that. But on the other hand, they're also showing the good aspect that is, it is possible to do trade, it's possible to have a liberal visa regime. So, it's possible to have stakeholders from Pakistani public also which are interested in improving bilateral relations. So I think this is a good overall good policy vis-a-vis Pakistan, that you keep your pressure on those core issues, whereas issues like trade and people to people, etc., visa, more liberal visa regime, across the border, partition families meeting, those issues which build some kind of favor in open society can be encouraged.
Right. Let me extend that question to Mr. Sahay as well. Like I mentioned before, non-state actors aren't really controlled by the state in Pakistan. The counter-argument there could be, even if India keeps up the pressure, the ISI might or might not listen to Islamabad, whatever the civilian government is in Islamabad. Wouldn't you think that could be a big roadblock in case, and obviously India will bring up the terrorism issue, don't you think that would be sort of an exercise of futility if no one's going to listen to them? What's the point of bringing it up?
Well, Athar, I think I agree with you. I don't think that, these big issues, as Ambassador Sikri mentioned and Professor Chenoy mentioned just now, I don't think we should expect any even serious steps towards their resolution, in any hurry. And in fact, if you think me cynical, so be it. But I think until the character of Pakistan's state changes, it's a military state. I'm not speaking of the government. I'm not speaking, the people in that country are very similar to our own people, though, the histories of the last 50, 60 years have, taken us in somewhat in different directions. But in a very basic sense, we are the same sort of people.
Right.
I mean, they hate to hear an Indian say that we are the same people, so let me not say that.
Not all of them hate it, I'm
well,
sure.
well, I mean, that apart. But to me, it will be a big gain if we can make, we can take the story forward in the area of trade, and which is not the brief this time, but visa relaxations for different categories of persons and so on. I think that itself will be an enormous thing. Let's not place our sights very high, because in when I say the Pakistan state, the military in command, it's not an ordinary military at all. It is also the largest agricultural land owner in the country, the largest business industry owner in the country. And therefore, it's almost like Professor Chenoy may correct me, I don't know, I don't want to get into this whole definition of class, etc., in Marxian language, but it is as close to a band of professionals getting as close to a class as you can imagine, because they are owners of these things. They've got to perpetuate themselves, and therefore hold on to this whole India as the enemy figure. Therefore, I'm not too impressed with what General Kayani said at Siachen about peace and so on. I'm not too impressed with that.
Right, sir, right.
But I think for all their weaknesses, which you pointed to, I think the present government in Pakistan, whatever the internal compulsions, at least they're prepared to talk about some of these things. I think that's welcome, that's positive. I think we should also try to push that dynamic forward to the extent we can.
Absolutely. I'm also being told that Shamim Meraj has joined us on the phone line. Shamim is the editor of the Kashmir Monitor, an English daily published from Srinagar. Welcome to the show, Shamim. Let me ask you this. In the context of the ongoing Indo-Pakistan secretary-level talks happening in Islamabad currently, there have been some statements from Kashmir as well. Mehbooba Mufti's PDP party has also said that they would like to see some easing or relaxation in LOC cross-border trade. My question to you, Shamim, would be, what is the feeling? Give us a sense of what people in Kashmir think of these talks. Are they positive as people here in New Delhi are? Give us a sense of what Kashmiris are feeling right now.
Well, Athar, of course, no one in Kashmir will be unhappy if India and Pakistan go ahead and talk, whether they talk Kashmir, trade or other bilateral relations. But to be honest, there is not much hope in Kashmir as far as this particular secretary-level talks are concerned, because for Kashmiris, we have been there, we have done that. Only last week, as a part of Aman Ki Asha, Kashmir saw on Pakistan news channels that are shown in Kashmir, Indian business delegation had gone to Pakistan. They were received very warmly there. So Kashmir has a feeling, in a sense, that India and Pakistan are moving forward. They are moving beyond Kashmir. The trade relations have improved. But on the ground, there is not much excitement. Well, yes, if something good happens, Kashmiris will be very happy. There have been some noises from the mainstream political parties. But unless in Kashmir, as we have seen, a lot gets lost in translation. So unless we see something concrete on the ground, perhaps some demilitarization of Siachen, the people in Kashmir, I think, will continue to be more or less be cynical. They're very happy that it is peaceful, but I think we need to go beyond peace now and consolidate whatever India, Islamabad and New Delhi talk to each other.
Right, Shamim, stay with us. We'll come back to you. A very pertinent point that you raised about how Kashmiris are not really that enthusiastic about it. We'll come back to that, but after a short break. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching The Big Picture. Lots more to come up. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Picture, and we're still discussing the big secretary-level talks that have started in Islamabad today. Mr. Sikri, Shamim also talked about the multiple entry visa regime or relaxed, liberalized visa regime as they're going to discuss in Islamabad. I was really recently, a Pakistani delegation had come, and I talked to the chairman of that delegation. He, in fact, is the chairman of the Pakistani Trade Development Authority. And he mentioned in his interview to me, and he said that India should act like a big brother towards Pakistan, especially when it comes to matters of trade and businesses, because India has a far more developed economy. Do you think that's the approach that New Delhi should be taking right now? Act as a benevolent big brother towards Pakistan?
Well, we've always been giving more to Pakistan than we've been getting. And I think sometimes this creates a misunderstanding in the Pakistani mind, a sense of weakness of the Indian state. At one level, the Pakistanis expect to be treated as equals. When it comes to concessions, they say, please treat us like a younger brother. Now, if you want to be treated like a younger brother, you have to respect the elder brother also, and above all, you must take care of the security concerns of the elder brother. Now, the younger brother cannot go around saying, you know, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to weaken you, I'm going to pump fake currency, I'm going to harbor terrorists who will come into your country, but please be generous. Now, that's not on.
Right, absolutely. That's a fair point, sir, that you mentioned. Let me talk to Professor Chenoy about how the multiple visas again, if I want to talk about that. What would that give us a sense of what would that mean on the ground? People who have family on either side of the border, that would really facilitate. There's a clause about no reporting visa. So if a Pakistani national comes into India, he doesn't have to go report to a police station. Wouldn't that really help the people-to-people contact that you mentioned? And what would it mean on the ground for people of India and Pakistan?
See, there are two things in this. One, the fact is that cross-border, the bus from Kashmir across the border started in April 2005.
Right.
But till date, only about 19,000 people have been able to get visas. So that's a very low figure. And there's confusion on both sides of to who this visa is applicable. In India, they say that businessmen can come. In Pakistan, they say only divided families can come. So I think the rules on the ground, you know, very often the home secretaries, etc., agree on something, and this does not even percolate to the ground level. So I think the rules should be made very clear. There should be trust, and the security considerations are always very high, as Ambassador Sikri said.
Right.
So both things should work parallel. On the one hand, I think it would be a revolution if a visa regime, a multiple visa regime, at least for some class of people like businessmen,
traders,
as they're saying, traders, those above the age of 65, they don't have to do visits. And I think India and Pakistan are the only two countries in the world where there is a city-to-city visa, not a country visa.
Right.
If
So,
I can just add a point
briefly,
here,
very
quickly.
Anand,
You know, you get, at the time of cricket matches, Mohali and so forth, so many people came with visas. How many people didn't go back? What are those guys doing in India? Are they part of terrorist modules? I don't know. But these are some concerns which will have to be looked at.
Right, absolutely. Fair point, sir. We take that point, sir. Coming to Anand Sahay, let me ask you this. Sort of a tricky question, if I could call it that. All these issues, the so-called workables or doables that were discussed during the Zardari visit as well. They include Siachen, Sikri, and trade and liberalizing the visa regime and whatnot. The overarching belief in this country is that keep the tricky issues aside for the time being till we start taking baby steps towards a peace process. We work the kinks in these issues out first, and then perhaps when we have a solid enough relationship, we can go and tackle issues like the K word. But my question, sir, here is, isn't there a danger that all the good work, or having done these workables, the doables, couldn't that be unraveled once we go back to the drawing board and start discussing Kashmir? Is there a danger of that?
See, I'll tell you one thing. I don't think there is too much profit in being very schematic about these things. Exactly the model we are doing, following with China, for instance.
Right.
Let's keep that out and let's trade as much as we can.
We've discussed this before, if you remember.
Yeah, perhaps. Now it's like this. Let us go with visas, trade, etc. In fact, on the economic side, let's put forward our own demands. Seriously, let's push them on it. That it just doesn't mean trading on both sides. It also means allowing transit of Afghan goods to come all the way down, down to India and then further on to Bangladesh and so on. And equally our goods through Pakistan territory all the way up. Let Pakistan goods headed for Bangladesh go via India. We have no objections. The normal security related checks, etc., would be done by both sides. And I take that for granted. You see? So I think there is no, this is part of a certain dialogue process. The foreign secretary is going, the minister is going. We had a composite, what we used to call a composite dialogue process in which we will discuss everything, but there was a certain kind of order and all that. And I don't know, there are no new names have been given really. But the essential point is when you talk about Siachen, for instance, I don't know if Siachen is a standalone issue at all. I'm quite persuaded in my own mind that Siachen is part of a larger, wider, composite Kashmir, related, mutually satisfactory understanding.
So you'd put Siachen in the tricky issues, not the doables.
No, I don't think Kashmir is either a tricky issue either for me. I don't think that you're scared to use the K word is tricky. I mean, because you rather keep postponing things and so on. I'm not of that mental makeup at all.
Right.
Let's talk about Kashmir. You're talking about United Nations resolutions. At the formal technical level, those things really have lost all validity. And Professor Ghani Bhatt wasn't far out. There was a scuffling at Rajbagh in the Hurit meeting, and Gilani Saab also took up all these issues. The whole society has got embroiled. But really speaking, it's been my experience in Kashmir that many of them just simply do not know. It's all here, word by whatever they've heard.
This is a related issue. You see, another thing that has happened yesterday and today, which I see is related, is the fact that India and Pakistan have signed the Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan.
The minister has cut short his visit in the face of the petrol hike.
Yes.
Just one other thing. You talk about the Kashmir bus service, which it didn't take off, as Anuradha was saying, 18 or 19,000 people. But I think I used to hear a lot of talk in Srinagar at that time that a greater purpose may have been served if the bus point was somewhere in our Jammu to Muzaffarabad on that side.
Right.
Because people with relations on both sides, of course, the Kashmir Valley people also on that side.
Right.
But a far greater number of the Pathankot, Jammu, that variety.
Right.
Link, if that bus was also opened.
Right.
That may be, as far as pure passenger traffic is concerned.
It could be a good
I'm not talking about goods and
Right.
services.
Let me go back to Shamim for a bit. Shamim, if you're still with us, there is, what I'd like to ask you, there is a report, the interlocutors report has been made public today. There have been constant reactions from the opposition in New Delhi as well as the separatists in Srinagar, and both parties have slammed the report. So no love lost really for that report for either side. Keeping that in mind, in that context, do you really think that these secretary-level talks for Kashmiris especially will have any impact when there is no consensus on what way forward should India, Pakistan and the people of Kashmir take? What is the sense in Kashmir that you get about first the interlocutors report and the slamming of the same?
Well, Athar, if you remember, the Kashmir panel was formed after probably a very tense summer in which more than 100 young men lost their lives So the expectation from this report, when the panel was formed, was very high. We actually thought that it would be a high-powered panel, but in the end it turned out to be a senior journalist, an academic, and a bureaucrat who were heading that panel. So any expectations that the people of Kashmir had with that panel actually fizzled out there. And what we see today, when this report was actually tabled, is a bit of a contradiction. On one level, it says that Article 370 must be upheld, and on the other hand, it says that there has to be a constitutional review. So it is actually, for us, it is a bundle of contradictions, and for us, it does not come from any big political authority. It is just a recommendation by a group of interlocutors, and nothing more than that.
Right, Shamim, Meraj there. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. But keep watching. We'll have closing arguments, and we'll also try and focus on what the way forward is for both India and Pakistan, and how these talks can be turned into something concrete that would last for quite a fair amount of time. We'll be right back after the short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Picture on Rajya Sabha television. Mr. Sikri, if I could ask you this, what is the way forward now? These talks have already started. It's a two-day affair between 12-member Indian delegation and Khwaja Siddique, I think, is the Interior Secretary of Pakistan. Do you think we can expect, I've asked you this before, but do you think there could be perhaps some roadblocks, like the reports in the Pakistani media said the cabinet hasn't vetted the visa regime? Do you foresee any other road bumps towards concrete, long-lasting solutions, especially on the trade front?
Well, the trade front, we will go ahead. I don't see a problem there. I think for us, the critical issue is terrorism. These talks are taking place after 14 months. I don't know when the next round will be. But if this round of talks does not come up to our expectations, despite our having sent such a large and high-level delegation, then I think that we have to really scale down our expectations that there is no shift in the Pakistani basic attitude towards India. That Pakistan is only wanting some tactical changes because it is faced with pressure on its Afghan front, because they are broke as a country. So they want to sort of, have a tactical ceasefire with India. If that is the case, then I think that all hopes and expectations that the Zardari visit may have evoked in India, and the Prime Minister taking a little step forward and saying that he would like to go to Pakistan, I think that may not come through. Because if there's no progress on this, it would be very difficult for Dr. Manmohan Singh then to come up with a credible package for his visit to Pakistan.
Right.
I mean, he may still go. I mean, he can go as a pilgrim. He can go for just a little visit. But there won't be any concrete move. And then Pakistan will move into election mode. And I think the political situation in India in the coming months will also get a little more cloudy.
Right.
So the window of opportunity is rather narrow. And if this round of talks does not produce anything, then I would say, let's sit back and let things with Pakistan proceed on their normal course, bit by bit, incremental.
Do you agree with that, Professor? If this window of opportunity closes, and it's a small window like Mr. Sikri said, do you think we should just take a step back and let it be as it is?
Well, I agree that there is a window of opportunity, but I also feel that the Pakistani state is in a bit of an existential crisis at the moment, where there's a lot of pressure. The Americans want to decrease their aid. People are questioning whether it's a rule of law state or whether it's a rogue state, and it has this deep state which Anand mentioned, that is the military and the ISI, which is behind all these so-called masks in front. There's going to be an election. So if they want to survive and have their own credibility, and even if the army ultimately they're also backing some candidates, if they want to also have some legitimacy from their own people, I think they'll have to ease relations with India. And one easy way is through this, these channels like trade and visas. I don't think they're going to address the security issue as yet, but nonetheless, I think it is important that they do so. Now, whether they do so or not, is yet to be seen. But I think if they want to really survive and have some legitimacy internationally and nationally and in the region, they should take some major steps.
Right, Professor. The last word on the show goes to Mr. Anand Sahay. Anand, tell us first of all your sense, in your opinion. Do you see Pakistan really taking the issue of terrorism perpetrated on its soil as seriously as New Delhi wants it to take? Also, do you think there are any concrete deliverables in sight? How crucial would the next 2 days be?
Well, I don't think that the Pakistani state takes our demand on the terrorism issue
as seriously as we would want them
that's
to.
as seriously as we would like. I am, broadly of the same view as Ambassador Sikri on this matter. I don't think, but I don't know if we should call quits, because of
So you
that.
slightly disagree with Mr. Sikri?
Well, not disagree in the sense.
Lay back.
I am quite conscious, and I think I agree with him. They've got the elections coming up and so on. And first of all that we hear, the so-called positives we hear from the state side. I don't mean the businessmen, I don't mean the ordinary people, the writers and poets and journalists.
You
and
mean
doctors.
Islamabad?
Yeah, I mean Rawalpindi. I mean Rawalpindi.
Yeah.
That their current approach, including what General Kayani said at Siachen, is tactical, not strategic.
So he's still
Sikri
thinking
also
like...
alluded just now. Yeah, so they'll go along. I mean, they've got elections coming up in about a year or just under a year, around that time. I don't know which horse they're going to back and so on, what their aims are for the future. Therefore, depending on what their aims are for the future, therefore they may try to, dovetail some of this stuff into that. But for me, it will be, a good working day if all that they do is give serious consideration to expanding more visa categories.
Right.
And not consciously block any trade positives which may take place in the normal course.
Absolutely.
And that is all I'm hoping for.
Anand, we'll have to end the show there. Unfortunately, we're out of time. There you go, my panelists. Agree on broad points that very crucial the next 2 days. This Indo Pak secretary level talks are very crucial, especially when it comes to trade and businesses. Multiple visas and a more relaxed visa regime needs to come into play for India and Pakistan to grow closer, at least starting with trade and business. That's all the time we have from The Big Picture tonight. Till next time when we get you another edition and another issue and another eminent panel. Thank you, goodbye, and thanks for watching.